as you guys know, we bought a 1984 Bronco that we trekked across the US. We put about 6,000 miles on it to get it from Oregon back to Canada. And along the way, we found a Wild Track Sasquatch Bronco, which is brand spanking new. We thought, you know, it'd be kind of neat to compare the two. We're gonna start by driving it and giving our impressions. There's lots of videos already on all the neat features and gadgets. We're gonna crawl all over this thing, underneath it, and show you guys what a mechanic kind of thinks about this kind of stuff. So let's get into it. Here we go. So we are actually at Holly Ford Fest, and big shout out to Holly for letting us take their engineering Bronco out onto the course and out on the road so we can get our kind of first impressions on it. Holly's already doing everything they can to get you guys as many products available to upgrade the Bronco. Definitely check out everything they have to offer, but this being in competition with Jeeps make great off-road vehicles as long as you upgrade the suspension, steering, brakes, and tires. But it's more of a lifestyle thing than it is anything else. Now, I just want to get out of the way. If you own a Bronco, don't start this stupid thing by waving at everybody else that has a Bronco. Nobody else cares that you have a Bronco, and it's annoying having to wave at every single person that owns the same vehicle as you do. So leave that to the Jeep guys and just drive your Bronco and enjoy it. First things first, this is the Wildcat Sasquatch. So this one has 35-inch tires with the bead lock on. Deflate your tires, then they won't pop off the bead. Obviously your 4 high and 4 low, and then there's all sorts of different settings for sand and mud and ruts. And I think, honestly, as a mechanic, 4-wheel drive is 4-wheel drive. I don't think there's a different way to make 4-wheel drive work better if you put it in the sand mode or the mud road. It's just an option to make you guys feel warm and fuzzy that, hey, this thing's got so many things that you can do that a normal 4-wheel drive can't. What it does do though is activate the front camera. There's a camera in between the lettering on the Bronco that shows right in front of the truck. So if you do care about scratching it or denting it, you want to take it off-road, your monitor here turns into a camera so you can look right in front of the bumper, that big giant blind spot in front of you. Everything past that, you can look out this nice windshield to see everything. It's got a nice rear view mirror so you can look behind you, but it also has backup camera and all that fun stuff. So far, ride's pretty nice. A lot nicer than that Bronco 2 I launched into the air yesterday. That was a lot more bumpier, so they've definitely got some improvements over their older generations. It throws a lot of mud. I can see all the mud coming. The flares are not doing that great of a job, even though the Sasquatch has the bigger flares. Oh, we are just taking it really easy here. I don't want to break another Bronco. All right, so I'm going to give you kind of a mechanic's point of view on the vehicle. Something that you might not normally hear about. The front bumper is completely modular, meaning that you can take things off and add things like the push bar and everything else, but it's Torx bolts, which is really annoying because if you take it off-roading at all, they're going to fill up with sand and water. They're going to fill up with water when it rains, it's going to rust, and then they're going to be a pain to take off afterwards. I would have just used the hex. Those last much longer, just normal 6-sided bolt, and then you're laughing, but that's just me. The mirrors are on the cowl so that when you take the doors off, you don't lose your mirrors, which is kind of handy. The Jeeps lose their mirrors when they go. Now there's 2 ways to go about that. That's gonna start hitting trees and branches as you go by, and you have a chance of hitting your mirror, whereas when you take the Jeep, they're gone. You can take the flares off as well. They're fairly easy. As for the build quality of it, I'm a little bit disappointed. Almost every gap is off. If you see at the bottom here, it's pretty tight, and then as you go up, the gap gets a lot wider. If you look at the gap at the bottom of the door here, I can stick my finger in, but as you go, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, and by the back, the door is almost hitting the rocker. Not very impressed with that. This gap on the back is fairly good, and the tailgate, same thing. We've got it almost touching at the top, and a big gap at the bottom. And then the opposite is true here, where it's tight at the bottom and it's open at the top. It looks like they assembled the truck and then painted it, meaning that if you look behind the hinge here, there's no paint. It's very light at the back here, and that means that this is going to rust. A better way to do it would have been to paint the door separate and then attach it to it. But again, that's the bean counters thinking that they can save X amount of dollars by screwing the people who have to replace a rusty hinge 10 years down the road. These are your bead locks, meaning that you can take this ring off, flip the tire on the other side of the rim, and then bolt it back on again. That way you can deflate your tires and do a lot more crawling. Underneath, we got a leak here of water. Is this the AC? That's kind of odd. What's going on there? We have water coming off of, the AC would be more up there, but the water's kind of running on this part of the subframe. So if that water catches and sits in here at all, then that is going to rot away as well. We got a massive skid plate underneath the engine, which is fantastic, but then we've got a composite transmission oil pan, meaning that if this gets hit at all, it's gonna crack and you are stuck at the side of the road. So there's no drain on the pan to be able to change your fluid easily and quickly. If you're doing a lot of low RPM heavy work, that means that your oil is going to run a lot hotter. Heat kills everything. So you're gonna want to change your fluid more often if you do take it off-road. But this composite pan being completely exposed like this and just behind the tires is probably not a great idea. But it is a 10-speed and it does shift really, really nice and comfortable. I'm really bothered by this water. That, not great. Anyway, moving forward. To me, the tie rods are a little bit skimpy right here. We've got 35-inch tires, and this is where it's gonna bend right here. If you hit a rock or something too hard with any amount of speed, I see this as a failure point going up. So I would almost take some tie rod ends with you and the bar coming out of the rack there if you're gonna go off-roading. This has the Bilstein shocks with a little bit more travel because it is a Sasquatch, and then the BF Goodrich all-terrains on there with white lettering in. That's too bad. I like my lettering on the outside. The inner fenders are exactly like every other truck. They've really gone from plastic to this material, which I don't know. I'm still not a fan of, but it must work. That Bronco has plastic inner fenders, is 30 years old, and they're still there. That's saying something. That was a bush buggy that we bought, so it was off-roading as well. But all the Silverados, all the GMs, the Dodges, the nice on-road cars, they all seem to have that composite, so there must be something to that. It's a fully boxed frame, front to back, which is great. Lots of access holes for the water and the mud to get out. And it's not a very long wheelbase, so that will work just perfect. Steel drive shaft, disc brakes front and back, no skid plate underneath the plastic tank. So they've got this massive skid plate underneath the engine, and then the fuel tank and the transmission pan are completely exposed. Nice. The side steps are not mounted to the frame at all. They are mounted to the inner rockers. So if you do manage to hit these with a rock, if you're going a little bit crazy off-road, you're going to dent your inside of your rockers, and then that could affect the doors opening and closing properly. They unbolt easy enough. You'd want to do something with your frame that's a little bit stiffer if you're getting a little too carried away. It's plastic. Interesting. Okay, so as a daily commuter or everyday vehicle, pretty cool. It handles nice. The ride is not uncomfortable by any means. The steering is a little stiff. It's not like electric steering where it's there instantly. It's a little bit more effort to get it off center, but anybody could drive it. The big thing about it was the space, and when we park our 84 Bronco side by side, they look almost the same size. Now this would be slightly shorter, but we've got a 4-inch lift in ours already. It looks bigger than it is because the tires stick out on the Sasquatch and it has much wider flares, and that gives it an aggressive stance, but it's not that big of a vehicle. The cabin is a lot more narrow. So it's a nice medium for somebody who doesn't want to drive a giant Yukon type vehicle. Looks aggressive enough, but it's not a huge vehicle that you need to maneuver all over the place. This is the 4-door. You can take all 4 doors off, you can take the roof off. You can't take the top with you, exactly like our Bronco, but you can put the front roof and the doors in the back. But that's not a simple little project. You can get soft tops for these as well, but you can look all that stuff up online. This is a 10-speed transmission behind the 2.7 liter in this one, twin turbo V6. 10-speed feels really nice. You don't feel a shift or anything at all. It's got a hitch on the back so you can tow something, and then reliability wise, these 2.7s have been out for a while. Now, what you really want to know is, can we yank that out and stick a V8 in it? Because we got to enjoy those V8s while they're still around. So let's grab a tape and see how big it is under the hood and see if we can actually make things fit. Here we go. Everybody wants a V8 just because the width of a Coyote is about 31 inches, and we have plenty of room to put a Coyote in there, so it won't be long before somebody swaps one in. But Godzilla is even smaller than a Coyote, so don't let that hold you back. You want a real V8, you might have to go buy a bullnose, but you can also throw one in here. I would say between the wheel wells is, without touching anything, about 36 inches, and from the firewall to the front of the rad is about 32 inches, so 32 inches square. Find your LSs are pretty small. Nice big battery. Seen a lot of vehicles with puny little batteries. You're gonna need that. Lots of electronics inside if you put a winch or anything in there. First glance, it looks a little busy, but really it's not that overly complicated inside here. It looks like it's fairly easy to work on. AC comes out in an odd spot, right on the firewall behind the, right in front of the driver actually. Generally, they've always been in this area back here. Might have to reroute the hoses to go up along the firewall if you get too big of an engine in here. Washer fluid is tucked right into the fender. As you can see, the washer bottle is right into there. That might lead to some moisture issues. If water gets in between there, that's going to rot the fender out from the inside out. We had a lot of issues with the Volkswagens. The fenders were light. They put foam and that in there. The water would sit and get trapped in there, and then it would rot the whole fender out. So that's probably not a great idea, but they're doing that to save room. Pretty nice overall. We'll see what it does in a couple years once they actually see a pile of abuse. You might think that I'm being overly critical, but that's because every video out there on brand new vehicles shows you all the pluses about it. These are my things as a mechanic that I see could be done better or might pose problems in the future. That being said, this is based off of the first gen. We bought a 3rd gen, and I really like the looks of it. And if I was to buy a brand new vehicle, this would be on the list of something that I would drive comfortably and my wife would drive comfortably. The styling is kind of brand new, not like every other thing. GM completely botched the new Blazer. They just rebadged an Equinox. Ford did a much better job of making this a very desirable vehicle when it first comes out because it catches your eye. It does lots of unique things like removing different panels, changes the complete look of the vehicle, the feel of the vehicle, makes it a lot of fun to drive. So that being said, thanks for watching, guys. We've only done a couple of these reviews. Definitely check out the Silverado review that we did. And if companies allow us to go over their vehicles, we'll do these now and again. But we are getting back to our builds. Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you're not filthy, you're not rich. Here we go.